Atlanta, capital of Georgia, America, the birthplace of Coca-Cola and home of its headquarters. It's the world's largest beverage company, employing over 700,000 worldwide. It all started here in 1886 with a chemist called Dr. John Pemberton.
Pemberton did have a product that was very successful called French wine of coca.
French wine of coca was one of those classic, almost mystical patent medicines of the late 19th century. And the people who proffered it to you claimed that it would cure virtually every problem that you might have, from neuralgia to headaches, to upset stomachs, mental fatigue. And of course, if you've got a sexual problem, it'll solve that as well.
Because guess what? It contained cocaine.
It started off as anything but soft. We all think of it as a soft drink today, but it had quite a punch to it.
French wine of coca was a heady mix of Bordeaux red wine mixed with caffeine and coca leaf extract. But at $1 a bottle and tasting bitter, it was a niche market.
He knew that he could make more money if he could sell a regular beverage at a soda fountain because patent medicines were sold $1 a bottle. Why not sell something, multiple drinks for 5 cents each?
Pemberton went about adapting the bitter-tasting medicine in the back room of his pharmacy.
What you have to do is mask it with a big old pile of sugar, which is what you find in a lot of soft drinks and energy drinks.
And to sell to adults and children alike, he removed the alcohol.
No one thought that cocaine was a problem. It wasn't deemed to be a terrible drug, and it wasn't. It was legal. So he removed the alcohol, but he kept the cocaine in.
The company has always denied that cocaine was in it. If you look carefully at the statements, as they say, cocaine was never part of the formula for Coca-Cola, which is perfectly accurate. But the extract of coca leaves was part of the original formula, and that is cocaine.
The formula was complete. All it needed now was a name.
Dr. Pemberton had an accountant who worked for him, and his name was Frank Robinson. And he's a hero of Coca-Cola, and he does not get enough credit for what he did.
He invented the name, and he just liked the alliterative sound of coca and cola.
We had coca leaf, hence the coca, and we had cola nuts, which was where the caffeine came from, so Coca-Cola.
And really importantly, he came up with the beautiful Coca-Cola script that we all recognize as the company's logo.
So, in a joint effort between John Pemberton and Frank Robinson, Coca-Cola was born. But during the first year, it only sold $50 worth of stock.
It was not a success right away. And in fact, Dr. Pemberton died before he saw the business become a huge success. He was actually on his deathbed, and he ended up selling the business.
With the inventor on his deathbed, Coca-Cola was about to be transformed by a new owner.
Asa Candler, within a very short period of time, managed to corral the ownership, and he's the one who made it a nationally successful soft drink.
Asa Candler acquired the company in 1891, and in the early days, one of his main objectives was to put their logo on almost everything. It didn't matter, any type of advertising they would engage in.
Like all good capitalist ventures, profit was at its core, and Candler knew just how to grow the business fast.
Asa Candler saw the future by using not just a little advertising, but mass advertising. You know, he poured, in 1902, I think, over $100,000 in advertising, which is huge. It's enormous.
That's why you see Coca-Cola calendars, Coca-Cola pocket mirrors, Coca-Cola wallets.
He would have people paint the side of barns in the countryside. You would make posters.
Vending machines throughout the years. There's a salesman truck back here. Different forms of signage.
And so what he was trying to ingrain is this feeling of Coca-Cola with these images, and people would instantly recognize it.
One of the earliest promotions that the Coca-Cola Company introduced was the free drink coupons.
At this time, the drink was sold in pharmacies from a soda fountain.
This is a place that people would have come to maybe after the theater or during the day, had a beverage, maybe even had something to eat while they were here. So it was more of a gathering spot for people. You'll see the soda jerk is right here serving you. He would have put the syrup into the glass for you, and then he would have turned and added carbonated water to your beverage.
There might be 120 different options that you could order because all it was is soda water and different syrups.
The challenge was that nobody knew what a Coke was, so Asa Candler underwrote a sampling campaign.
So what we have here is the 1901 free drink coupon. You'll see on the back the classic Coca-Cola red and white with the early script logo.
He would write to soda fountain operators and ask them, could you please send me your top 50 customers? And then he would get the addresses and he would send them coupons.
Asa Candler was confident. He drank it one time and knew, wow, this is so good, I'm gonna buy the whole company. And he knew too, if I can get people to try it one time, even if it's for free, they'll be customers for life.
Well, the family lore is that Asa Candler would howl with anguish at the amount of Coca-Cola that he was giving away for free. He was a tight-fisted fellow.
But it paid off. What was making $50 a year in 1886 was now making over 11,000 times that by the turn of the century.
The business really prospered, and by the end of the 1890s, they were selling 250,000 gallons of syrup a year.
It was a capitalist's dream, but a scandal was emerging that could bring the entire company crashing down.
In the late part of the 19th century, cocaine was seen as a revolutionary drug. Everybody was crazy about it. They thought it was going to be terrific. But quickly, at the turn of the century, things really started going against cocaine.
There were cocaine scares around the country, and that became a big problem for the company.
In 1903, the New York Tribune ran an expose that linked cocaine to crime all over America.
People were worried that it was addictive and that it could actually turn you into a criminal.
Eventually, having any cocaine in the product that was active like that was too much of a negative.
The Pure Food and Drug Administration came along and said, any semblance, any sign of this strain of cocaine, you're going to have to remove.
The problem was they believed they had to keep the Coca in Coca-Cola to retain legal protection over the trademark. So they developed a way to continue using the Coca leaf, but with the active cocaine removed.
Over the years, they refined a process for exhausting coca leaves. Percolate it, drain it, nuke it, pasteurize it. I often thought it would be not only impossible for cocaine to survive that process, but for anything to survive it.
About 1899, two lawyers came down from Chattanooga to visit Asa Candler. One was Joseph Whitehead, the other one was Benjamin Thomas.
And they were interested in acquiring the exclusive rights to bottle Coca-Cola. And at that time, it had never been bottled before.
Candler didn't think much of the idea of bottling Coca-Cola because bottling was a really disreputable back alley business because the product went bad.
Sometimes you would do it in a barn in the backyard. There'd be animals next door, or there'd be straw on the ground.
He's like, yeah, okay, I don't have really time for this, and Coca-Cola is meant to be sold as syrup or at soda fountains, so if y'all want these rights, here you go.
So remarkably, he sold the contract for $1 to them.
What an opportunity to take what became the most important brand of the 20th century and have the exclusive rights to distributing it.
These two lawyers set about creating a national network of Coca-Cola bottlers.
The problems with bottling had to be solved.
This is the bottle that they first settled on. This is the Hutchinson bottle. And they were sealed by a wire and rubber stopper. And in order to break that seal, you just bent the metal wire and it popped out. And pop, that's how it got the name, Pop.
The problem was you could not sanitize these bottles. And so bottled soft drinks tended to go bad and people would get sick.
This could have ruined the bottling operation before it even began. Fortunately, technological advances came in the nick of time.
The great stroke of good fortune that came to the early bottlers was a fellow in Baltimore named Painter invented the bottle cap.
And so that's when they went to the straight-sided bottle, which you see here.
And these bottles could be properly sanitized.
Coke bottlers all across the country went from being back alley belly wash salesmen to being millionaires. And it all happened virtually overnight.
People always say Asa was crazy for giving away the Coca-Cola bottling rights for $1. I disagree. I think that was actually one of the best things he ever did.
By 1910, just a decade later, you had Coca-Cola bottling plants all across the country and they were selling oceans of Coca-Cola.
It's easy to see how back in the early 20th century, there were other people who wanted to cash in on the unexpected success of the sugary brown liquid.
There were a lot of imitators who were imitating off of our name.
Africola, Americola, Alicola, Balamicola, Cafe d'Ola, Carbocola, Candy Cola, Capicola, Chericola, and I'm just through the C's so far. It was an endless stream of imitators.
And everyone had, different bottles, and they were trying to look like Coke, and Coke didn't even have the same bottle.
Some of them had the script at the bottom, some in the middle, some at the top.
So there was no consistency. So what would happen is imitators took advantage of that. Here's a Coca-Cola glass, and here's a celery cola glass. And the same thing happened with these amber-colored bottles.
The bottles were so similar, customers couldn't tell the difference, especially when they couldn't even properly see the bottles for sale.
Bottled soft drinks tended to be sold in huge tubs of dark ice water. Your consumer would plunge an arm into these icy depths and come up with who knows what.
2 bottles of Coca-Cola, yeah? Make sure it's Coca-Cola. All them bottles look pretty much alike.
So the bottlers were upset because they were losing business. Mr. Candler was upset because he was losing business also.
And again, the company is so smart on the marketing side. They said, wait a minute. We have a chance to really stand out. Let's create our own unique bottle. And in 1915, they did.
Is that Coca-Cola? Yes, sir. And that's the brand new bottle for Coca-Cola.
It had to be recognizable in the dark or broken on the ground. That was the creative brief for these glass companies.
They patterned it after the hobble skirt Betty wears. Pretty nifty, huh? I'll take the hobble skirt. I'll take Betty.
Is this the original?
This is the original drawing that was done. So you can see they were very close to what they made. This is a prototype of that bottle, and you can see it's bulbous in the middle and a little narrow in the bottom, and it is ribbed and veiny, kind of like a cocoa pod.
But cocoa pod is the source of chocolate, nothing to do with coca, the cocaine leaf from which Coca-Cola got its name.
I mean, what a great mistake they made, because that beautiful shape was eventually thinned down to the iconic contour bottle that we all know today.
But the war threatened everything.
Sugar was going to be rationed and restricted, and they thought they might have to curtail sales by as much as half. So they began with an audacious theory that they could argue that Coca-Cola was an essential wartime product.
The chairman of Coca-Cola said that they would give bottles of Coca-Cola to the troops for 5 cents a time, and, in quotes, no matter what it cost the company.
And it was brilliant. It lost money, of course, but the company was able to associate itself with the war effort.
As a result, the drink was made exempt from sugar rationing in the US, and the company even saw an opportunity to expand overseas.
When Eisenhower went to the troops and said, what can we do to boost morale and to get you through the war, they asked for 3 things. They asked for cigarettes, they asked for candy, and they asked for Coca-Cola. So Eisenhower wrote a note to the company asking for mobile bottling plants.
And that's what happened. In Italy, Germany, they used the Second World War to catapult themselves into places like Europe and the Pacific and Southeast Asia.
When Coke became available to GIs, it had by then become such a familiar part of American life that it was like a letter from home.
So soon after, when the war ended, we had all these mobile bottling plants that could be developed into permanent bottling plants. So in some instances, locals would take over the bottling plant. People who were interested in getting a bottling contract would become the bottler in that country. And in some instances, GIs liked where they were and decided to live there and took over the bottling.